Welcome to Wesley United Methodist Church Small Group Leader Training. I am going to be leading you through this. My name is Mark Teagle. I'm the Director of Spiritual Formation, Community Engagement, and Music here at Wesley. Our topics today are spiritual health, growing in your faith. What is a small group and why small groups? Why is leadership so important? How do you prepare for a meeting? Starting and ending a meeting. The structure of a meeting, keeping a meeting going well, identifying future leaders for our small group program. How do you deal with obstacles and opportunities? Let's start by talking about spiritual health, what it means to be growing in your faith. We often talked about connecting, growing, and serving, and we use the spiritual disciplines to achieve those goals. Connecting involves connecting to God through worship and connecting with others in opportunities like fellowship and other opportunities. You can grow in your faith personally through Bible study and prayer. You can also grow in your faith corporately in groups. We also serve in two ways, within the church and then serving beyond the church through the ministries of the church or on your own. Just a chuckle. So the definition of a small group. Small groups provide nurturing relationships in Christian community. They invite others to faith in Jesus Christ. That's the evangelism part of small groups. They also develop leaders to multiply the efforts of including even more people. In small groups, we can get to know people in a way that is difficult in a larger community. We can share our needs and have them met by those around us. We can learn about the Bible and grow in faith with help from group leaders in an intimate setting. We also work together in ministry and possibly in outreach projects. We are also developing new leaders who can then reproduce the small group experience for others. A small group is usually about 8 to 10 people, no more than 12, because then it starts to get to be a large group. We want to be able to give everyone a chance to contribute. And the setting can be around a table or in a circle, chairs, or couches. But why do we use small groups? We are called to make disciples, to introduce people to loving God, loving one another. That's the Wesley Church motto. In small groups, we can learn to be followers of Jesus in the context of community, worshiping together, learning together, serving with our brothers and sisters. And in a growing dynamic church, the most effective way to make disciples, to have spiritual formation happening, is through small groups. So the purpose of these small groups, spiritual growth and fellowship, meeting together and giving everyone a sense of belonging, making sure that people are connected. And why is leadership so important? Our small group leaders learn and grow even more from leading. They maximize the effectiveness of small group ministry. They help groups and growth multiply. And it also gives you a chance to answer a personal call to utilize your gifts in ministry. Preparing for a meeting. You want to set up the space for conversation. Arrange the seats in a circle or a U-shape or perhaps around a table. You want to make sure that hospitality is covered. Are you serving snacks? Maybe a meal? Drinks? Napkins? Providing writing paper and pens? Maybe a few extra Bibles? Are you prepared to lead the discussion? Read through the passage or the chapter in the book. Maybe look at some background materials. Have some discussion questions, some talking points. Try to anticipate questions or difficult issues from the text. Resources that you can possibly use. Of course, the Bible, maybe a commentary, people that have studied the Bible and put notes there for you. Maybe if you have some questions, you can email them to the church staff. You can look for books or other resources from places like Cokesbury or Christian bookstores. So, in preparing for a meeting, it would be good to have an icebreaker or get to know you section at the beginning. Maybe play a short game or list of off-the-wall questions that will get people sharing and talking, making them feel at ease. You want to make sure you know how long each part of the meeting should be. Try to keep on track. Maybe someone could be the timekeeper and just remind the leader when they should be moving on to the next section. You want to really respect people's time. Some things to avoid in your meeting. You don't want to get into obscure topics and tangents. You don't want to get into frivolous things that don't get below the surface. You want to avoid some of those ultra-conservative or fundamentalist resources. You will have folks that are from different perspectives in your meetings, more liberal, more conservative, but try to keep in that space. You also don't want to use materials that are not inclusive. Women, people of color, those from the LGBTQ plus community. So, starting and ending a meeting. Did you know that meetings begin twice? When people arrive and they start to talk informally, that's the first beginning. And then the second beginning is when you sit down and start the meeting informally. You want to be clear on your expectations. You might say, feel free to come as early as such and such a time for our informal time together. We'll really get things going around such and such a time. That way people know what to expect. Meetings also end twice. Sometimes they even end 3 times. If someone has to leave early, let them know when is the best time to leave without impacting the flow of the meeting. And when the sit-down part of the meeting wraps up, transition to a more informal time. And then when the last person leaves and the interaction really stops, that's when the meeting fully ends. As a leader, work to make informal interactions a part of the group time. Often people can get just as much out of that. Encourage people to invite new people. Consider the practice of having an empty chair to represent the next person who will be added to the group. If your group gets too big, well, consider splitting your group and forming additional groups. Part of the purpose of small groups is to grow the church and its impact in the world. Let's look at the structure of a meeting. First is the pre-meeting, informal fellowship as members arrive and settle, maybe about 10 minutes. Then comes the welcome and the icebreaker, some introductions, some get-to-know-you activity, maybe set the expectations for the meeting, especially if it's a new group. Then the main part of the meeting is the lesson, where the book is discussed, a Bible passage wrestled with, maybe watch part of a movie or a play. Then you should have a check-in and prayer requests. Each person encouraged to share where they've seen God in their lives since the last meeting. And then pray together. And then informal fellowship time and cleanup. Some other formats you can consider for your small group, maybe a meal together, or go off and do a service project, do a fun night like bowling or playing board games, maybe going together on an outing, maybe a special night where everyone's encouraged to invite a friend. Some ways to keep a meeting going well. Preparation is the key. Also, make sure that people's expectations are in line with yours. Please respect people's time. Encourage everyone to contribute. Here's a big one: avoid crosstalk. That means talking about another person or getting off on a tangent or having somebody comment on somebody else's issue, things that you can avoid. We want to look at identifying future leaders because we want our small group program to continue growing. Here are some of the attributes of good leaders. Maybe those who help with the preparation, help with the cleanup. They've got that servant heart. Look for people who are insightfully contributing to the discussions. If they're a good listener, maybe they have a special heart, special commitment to the small group. One way to bring them along is to start sharing leadership duties. Maybe have them lead the icebreaker or lead part of the discussion. Maybe give them some homework for the next session, a special topic. Encourage them to be part of our small group leader training to prepare for leading the group. And just encourage them to look forward to a time, maybe to envision when they could be leading the group. And then a way to bring about this growth, splitting your existing group into two to make room for new people. All right, now time for some of those obstacles, but also opportunities. If there's poor attendance, think about ways that you can deal with it. Follow up with people, encourage them to attend, let them know how much their absence hurts the group. You might have to pull someone aside if they're constantly interrupting or if they're dominating the conversation. You want to encourage them to be better listeners, to maybe see if they can listen twice as much as they talk. Make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk. Sometimes people will get too personal. They'll overshare, maybe take too much time, but also go into subject matter that is uncomfortable for a lot of people in the group. There are also shy people, people that are just naturally reticent to talk, and you want to keep within their comfort zone, but find ways to try to draw people out. Ask some open-ended questions or ask for them to comment on different things. You want to be careful if somebody is angry about something. Maybe something's really hit a sore spot. And maybe you can say, let's talk about this after the group. Maybe pull them aside and deal with that. And some people just like to argue. And so it's a way of kind of steering the conversation, encouraging people to maybe save it for another time, or maybe look at how do you really deal with what they're dealing with. And then I also talked earlier about crosstalk and how destructive that is. People chiming in on other people's issues. And then people that might not be respectful of the leadership. Each one of these obstacles can be an opportunity for you to help your group grow and to move forward. Well, that's it for our small group leader training. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please contact me through Wesley United Methodist Church if you have any questions or comments. Thank you very much. This is Mark Teagle. Thank you for listening.